Hello there and welcome back to the channel. It's me, the Whiteseer, playing some more Farthest Frontier, and this is a basic guide for farming, which is very confusing if you can't be bothered to learn it. So I thought I'd try and make it a little bit easier. This is my current farming setup. Actually, on my Vanquisher playthrough, I'm using a 3-field system with a spare field here for grazing, and I'm actually building that 3-field system in a very, very basic form over here just for extra food, because we're getting to 150 people now, so we're just going to need more food. So where do you start? First things first. When we come into our building tab here and we go to food production and we click on this field, we get this lovely map of green, yellow, red. And that kind of tells us the fertility. So the higher the fertility, obviously, the better. But it's not the be-all and end-all, because we can correct that. It's just kind of determines how quickly you can start with your field. For example, this over here is probably 50-ish. Yeah, 51%. And it tells you the soil mixture, clay to sand as well. This is 76%, so obviously this one here is easily more manageable. You can see the different effects on my fields up here that farming has actually had. On the fertility, they all started off this lush green colour, so we're trying to manage this, and I'm putting my new fields down in some 70% areas here, so that's relatively decent. This over here is 76, which is just prime farming land. So anyway, you're going to draw your field size. I mean, this for me is messy. These 3 fields. I think this is still 10 by 10 actually, and a 10 by 10, and then this is something like 5 by 12 or 13 or something. So it's not great, but that's what it is. These are 10 by 10, and I built these as soon as I built this plan here, and I unlocked the houses as we went along. See my previous video if you want to look at efficient housing setup. So we have our field, and in order to make our field, we have to go through a couple of phases. The first one is we have to clear the field. If there's any trees in the way, the guys will come along and clear the field. Then they'll come along and they'll till the field, which will get it looking like this, but more often than not it'll be covered in weeds. And then after that we can actually start managing the field. So what does that mean? When we click on our field, we are going to have 1, 2, and 3 here with nothing in. And you'd be right in thinking that these are years. So this is year 1, this is year 2, and this is year 3. So we're actually basing our crop system here on a medieval crop system that was actually taken by the Chinese, but adopted in Europe in the medieval period, called 3-field crop rotation. However, we are ignoring the fallow field. So normally in a 3-field system you would leave one field completely barren for a year, which would allow weeds and clover to grow basically, and then you would let your animals on it and they'd basically refertilize the field and eat all the weeds out of it. We don't have to do that in this game because there's a couple of other mechanics. To start with, what you're going to want to do is get your weed level down. So if I click on this one, so this one here has just been tilled, and you'll see here that the weed level is 86% and the rockiness is 29%. So I've selected the farmer icon, setting farmers to perform field maintenance instead of growing crops. So they are basically working for a few years to reduce the weed level and rockiness, which sounds awful because you are wasting 3 years of time. I would set up your fields as soon as you have the people to do so. And I would get them reducing that weed level and that rockiness level as low as you possibly can. Also, what you can do here is you can add sand here. This moves the bar to the center, and that's going to sort of give you a maintained kind of soil level for the field. Some crops like it more clay, some crops like it more sand. I tend to go kind of in the middle because you'll hit something some of the time. When it's down here, you'll hit nothing all of the time. So that's worth assigning the values of sand and clay to your fields. Once you've achieved this, you can go into your, if you're doing a 3-field system, or even if you're doing a 1-field system, you can start adding crops. So the crops have several characteristics. Firstly, there's the crop yield. That's just determined by the type of crop. Most of them 6 to 8 out of 10 here, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10 for wheat. You tend to get a good yield, I guess, with wheat, and cabbages again quite good. You'll notice these are different sizes. That's no accident. That's actually the space they're going to take up in your seasonal growth here. But the key things for you to look at really are frost tolerance, heat tolerance. Weed suppression is quite useful, but not essential if you set it up this way. The main one really is the impact it has on fertility. So if you look at, for example, wheat, impacts fertility -6%. Now that's changed. It was -5 before. It's now -6. So there's been an update to the game since I last played, which was 2 days ago. So they've changed this. So yeah, -6% for the impact of fertility for wheat. If you look at clover, it adds 3%. So any year where you have a 3% gain and a 6% loss, so any year where you're growing wheat, you're going to lose 3% fertility on your field. So that's the first thing that's changed. That used to cancel out. It used to be 5% plus and a 5% minus, so it was 0. So you could have clover and then grow wheat, and actually there'd be no difference that year on fertility. I guess this is going to be more fun now that it's changed. Clover is basically your friend. It does add fertility, and I think it's actually the only one here. I'm just checking that that's a correct statement to make, because if they've changed it, oh no, okay, peas add 1, and beans add 1. Okay, so peas add 1 as well, and turnips now take away 2. So this used to be +2 and this used to be -2. So these two used to cancel each other out. So what's going to happen here then is we're going to have clover, which is going to add 3, and we're going to have flax, which is going to take 3. So this is a negative impact year. This one is a -3% year. Yep, -3% and a -1. So every 3 years, my field is going to lose 4% fertility. So we need to combat that somehow, and the way that we do that is by spreading compost, which I'll go through in a minute. So year 1, clover and flax. Year 2, clover and wheat. Year 3, peas and maintenance to get rid of rockiness if we need to, and then turnips. And that's how we've maintained a weed level of 1% in our field. On the second field, we are going to set this up that's skewed by 1 year. So again, the second year here is the first year from the first field, clover and flax. This is the second year from the first field, clover and wheat. And then again, the final year is now our first year. And then on the third field, we do the same thing. So that means in any 1 year, we are basically achieving all of this through our 3 fields. In this particular example, I've made it quite big and prominent. We've put our compost yard in the middle, so I can spread easily to the 4 fields. I've thrown a barn on the side and set this spare space here for grazing. I've got my beehives set up here because they get really good bonuses from growing plants. So obviously we're going to get really good yields from these 4 bees, and I've set up a wheat silo here, or a grain silo, a granary. Although I've now moved that, and we will be starting to collect our grain outside of the town near my bakeries and my windmills. So again, less travel, more efficiency. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it's a decent system now that they've changed it. It seems like it's going to work. Spreading compost does add a relatively decent amount of fertility, so I think using the compost here to spread to alternate fields, or the lowest at any one given time, is going to increase your yield. So yeah, have a play around with farming. That's how it works. Be aware of your figures, trying to get the least amount of fertility impact as you possibly can will increase this yield. And obviously make sure you do your maintenance and get your weed level and your rockiness down as low as possible. One last thing, wall in your fields. You will have deer, boar, bears, anything else come along and eat your crops whilst you're growing them, and it can be very, very frustrating. Wall them in with either full-on palisade walls like this, or you can go for any of these. I mean, it says here, great for keeping animals away from crops or predators away from livestock. This is the cheapest option. This will make another area of defense for your town. I've got raiders now having to go through 2 walls to get through to my town centre in all directions. So I recommend full-on palisades. It takes a long time to set this up, but it's worth it in the end. I hope that's helped. Leave any comments and discussion points in the comments below, and I will. I'd love to answer them and chat to you guys. That's all from me. Until the next time, take care of yourselves and go have some fun out there.